will lead us in the invocation, and then we'll follow with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Psalm 67, verse 1 says, God be merciful to us, bless us, may your face shine upon us. Let us pray. Our Father and our God, we do ask for your mercy. We are sinners by nature and by choice. And Father, we do ask that you will forgive us for our sins. And Father, we ask that you will give us mercy and give us wisdom. I pray for this body as they make some tough decisions. We ask that they will look to you and you will intercede. May your face shine upon this meeting, for we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Need a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. This brings us to citizens' comments. I know we have one person that wants to speak. Denise, if you would come to the podium there, speak into the mic. Anybody else will let me know. You can follow her. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Denise Kraft. I reside at 409 North Allegheny Avenue. This was my deceased husband, Curtis Kraft's home place, and he purchased it in September of 2003. He was literally the third owner of this property. Curtis passed away November 21st, 2019, and at that time, it was our dream that this year he would be retiring and we would sell and relocate closer to my sons and our 2 grandsons. In our planning stages and for the last several years, we've been doing a few things to better our home for future sale. You have some pictures there. Number 2 shows we've also been dealing with the house next to us at 411 North Allegheny. This home was occupied when we purchased our home, but unfortunately the lady passed and her daughter resided there for several years. She's since relocated to another state and it has remained an abandoned house for the last 4 years. Curtis went to the city on numerous occasions, more than I can count, about the grass not being cut as well as the deterioration of this home. Number 3, you have some pictures. He asked about mowing the property, but we were told it had to be subcontracted, but he'd end up having to go over to clean it off our fence line whenever they managed to mow it. You have a picture there, and that's Curtis in that picture cleaning up that property. I have before me a complaint that I took a picture of today off the front door of this residence, which is currently posted. And on there, in this, it says that a yard is not to get in excess of 1 foot. 1 foot. When they mowed this yard on Friday, it was 42 inches high. The mowers that arrived Friday had a terrible time just trying to maneuver through the thick grass. It continues to read, if you violate this complaint, you can be found guilty of a Class 2 misdemeanor. Any persons receiving 2 or more notices within 12 months of an initial violation shall be guilty of a Class 1 misdemeanor. Don't get me wrong. I do not want to see criminal charges on these people, but why make rules if you aren't going to enforce them? The weekend of Curtis's funeral, my son and my brother were trying to put guttering up on this house. Number 6 is your picture, to keep my basement from flooding. I've installed 2 sump pumps since this house was abandoned. I've dealt with rats, groundhogs eating the lattice on my house. The groundhogs are living under this abandoned home. Due to health issues, I have to pay to have my yard maintained since Curtis passed. And I'm even having to include weed eating on both sides of my properties because of these places being not maintained. I've also found mowers for the opposite side of my property, which is owned by a company outside of this area. I took upon myself, with their knowledge, during the last fall cleanup to haul away furniture from the back porch that had been abandoned for over a year. It currently was mowed last week and will be done again this week, so this property can be put on the market for sale. These are things that the city should have been addressing. Just the trash left unattended to give rodents a breeding and nesting area is deplorable. So with all this said, in less than 4 hours today, I have found out that 411 North Allegheny is currently delinquent since the second half of 2016 in the amount of $1,595. I understand there may be a lien on the property for several years that stopped a potential sale of this property years ago. Potential buyers look at what's next door to me and they say, no thanks. Realtors tell me, when you get this address, give us a call, we'll see about listing your property. My taxes are paid and always on time. Why should I be punished due to the city not enforcing codes that you put on the books? The church minister behind me has wanted to buy this property to tear it down due to the disarray, and he can't even get a straight answer. Allegheny Avenue is the main throughway for this city, and we have some of the worst properties on the street. I've heard all the excuses. You want people to move to our area, but I would not encourage that when I have fought with this city for the last 4 years over something called due process. If you're going to make laws or set codes or the book of maintaining property, then enforce them. I realize that COVID has made things hard to get the necessary documents and such, and speaking with several representatives of the city, I feel I've been played. I'm told this or that will be addressed and someone will get back with me on what's next. Evidently, nothing is next. Most recently, an excuse was given that it's tied up with heirs. Then go to them. Light a fire under them to do something. If it has to be a lien, then go after the lien holder and let them know that after this long, the chance of them getting their money would be to auction and recoup what they can. Something better than nothing. Maybe they should have thought of that before the house started falling apart. I deserve to be able to get a fair price for my home and get on with my life. I should not have to take time out of my day to find mowers, move furniture, and mow someone else's property just to have a fair value on mine. The money that the city has wasted on issues like this is unbelievable. I'd be curious to know what is paid to these contractors, as through the years I have watched what they do is mowing, where we've witnessed last year what could be done in 1 hour took 2 or 3 because they're sitting in the alley on their telephones. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Denise.
Thank you.
Ms. Onidis, will we be addressing this?
Yes, one thing I'd like to say is actually over the weekend, we begun work on sorry, this is really muffled. It's not my normal one. A PSA campaign of putting together how we all can keep Covington beautiful. We've also tried to work on tracking the list of locations where we're doing the mowing. It recently transferred from the police department as a responsibility to development services. So we're trying to hope that once we align it more with the property maintenance, with, you know, the buildings itself, with trying to make more of a one-stop shop, that we can be more proactive in that. And the Keep Covington Beautiful campaign and different PSAs affiliated with that should be coming out in the next few days, of just how we all can do small things to help keep the city attractive and keep our homes looking attractive. I'm very well aware that we have some major property maintenance issues and some major blight issues. It's something that we're struggling with in the budget, but I do agree that, you know, things such as grass cutting when it's 42 inches high is rather excessive. It's hard to cut after 12, so thank you for making me aware. Are these pictures that I can keep?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Absolutely.
Is there any other public comment tonight? Next item on the agenda would be correction and approval of minutes for a called meeting on the 1st of September, a work session on the 1st of September, a regular meeting on the 8th of September, and a called meeting with the Covington City School Board on the 10th of September.
Move for approval of all 4.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. The next thing is appointments. To consider 2 appointments to the Covington Planning Commission. And Ms. Scott, we have Mr. Scruggs wants to be reappointed.
Yes, sir.
And then we have,
Caitlin Cook
and was it
And
two?
Steve Wilson.
and
Steve Wilson and Caitlin Cook. So let's go ahead and do Pat first.
Yeah.
That's just a matter of, all in favor of Mr. Scruggs being reappointed, just say aye.
Aye.
All right, now, Ms. Scott, the way we've done this in the past, and I don't think either are here, when you do a roll call.
Yes,
And
sir.
when you do the roll call, whoever's name you call will say who they want.
Do we need a motion? Do we need a motion?
No, not for this.
Just a vote, okay.
You just do a roll call, and then when you call their name, they'll name the person that they want to see appointed.
Okay.
Who are they?
Miss
Who are they? It's Caitlin. what's her name?
Caitlin Cook,
Cook and Steve Wilson. Go ahead.
Mr. Ensminger,
With respect to this vote for Planning Commission members, I need to disclose that one of the applicants is my fiance, but I feel that I am able to participate in this vote for the Planning Commission members fairly, objectively, and in the public interest. Cook.
Mr. Hunter,
Cool.
Mr. Tucker,
Mr. Wilson.
Vice Mayor Crozier,
Steve Wilson.
Mayor Seibold.
Mr. Wilson. Thank you. So that would be Steve Wilson and Pat Scruggs would be the new appointments to the Covington Planning Commission. Next, we have some special presentations. The first, Chief Smith will be presenting a retirement award to Mr. Burton. Where is Greg? Oh, I couldn't see him.
That's Mr.
I
Burton.
thought-
One up, Greg.
Are any of y'all out in the hall that want to see, y'all come on in for this.
Was the City of Covington's Chief of Police and Director of Public Safety, sorry. I am proud to stand before the City Council and Madam Manager to present this certificate to Greg Burton. Greg served with the Covington Rescue Squad for 31 years. And the entire time that he served with the Covington Rescue Squad, he served in many different capacities, which I will cover in this letter of appreciation. So recognizing 31 years of voluntary service to the Covington Volunteer Rescue Squad, whereas Greg Burton has served the citizens of Covington and Allegheny County in the Covington Rescue Squad for 31 years, and whereas Covington Rescue Squad members have worked with all area rescue squads, including Meade West Vaco, and whereas during the 31 years, Greg has served as the first lieutenant, second lieutenant, captain of the rescue squad, and also president for the rescue squad. And whereas Greg has been trained as a state level as an instructor for vehicle and school bus extrication and CPR, and whereas Greg has served as the district vice president of the Virginia Association of Volunteer Rescue Squads and served 2 years as a state training officer, and whereas Greg is a life member of the Virginia Association of Volunteer Rescue Squads, and now and therefore be it that the City of Covington City Council hereby recognize the exceptional dedication that Greg Burton has shown in the Covington Volunteer Rescue Squad, and we show our appreciation for 31 years of service. So congratulations, Greg. And I just want to say, most people don't stay employed for 31 years. For somebody to volunteer their own time to go out to the community and serve the community in the capacity that Greg has is remarkable. It's in so many words, it's a breed that's no longer as available as it used to be, and we appreciate it, and I know I appreciate it because I worked hand in hand with Greg for at least 16 years and with the police department, and I've seen him do some remarkable things. So once again, congratulations, Greg.
Greg, let me ask you a question. At 31 years, that probably puts you as one of the longest-serving active squad members in its history, correct?
I look back, the last person I can remember that served more than that was Howard Morris.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Howard served actually 44 years.
Because I knew that would have to put you somewhere, because you don't see that normally with the squad with that
So
type
unless
of
there was
time.
somebody older than Mr. Howard,
Well, you're in good-
in recent times, I don't think there's been anybody.
Put you in
that
good
long.
company.
But I just want to let you guys know that it's never been singular. We're in a small community here, and it's taken lots and lots of people to get the job done. There's lots of people in this room. Becky gave me a push back in 1989 when I got in. Becky was a member of the rescue squad, and it's nice to have somebody here that can even relate to that. Mike, standing back here in the back, we used to sit out at Hardy. I'll tell you how long ago it's been. We used to sit out the old Hardee's on Monroe Street they had umbrellas out front. And we'd sit out and listen to calls, and Mike would take off down the street to go on a call, and I'd chase him down to the firehouse just because. That's what I like to do. But over 31 years, and even prior to that, the rescue squad has seen a lot of people come and go. And it's taken a lot of people. You know, there's not one person that's made any more difference down there than anybody else. I put my heart into it. I think I made a lot of differences for a lot of people. I still have my heart in it. I retired from active service, but I'll still be around as a advisor, a mentor. I'm still in the fire department. Service is still in my heart. But I never thought this point would come because I love it so much. But I see my daughter doing it now. She's going to take up where I left off. And everybody else, the ones that are there now. I'm still recruiting. I gave out 3 applications for the rescue squad that they put out last month. I was actively recruiting at work today. A young man that he's single, he's an engineer at the paper mill, and you know, the time to get in is when you're young and single, when you can rip and run and do what you want to do. That's what's happened to our organization over the years. People get in when they can, and then life changes. You get married, you have kids, kids go to school, kids have ball games, kids have whatever else they have. Life goes on, you get older, and then it's time for somebody else to come in behind you. And so I'm actively trying to make that happen. I believe in our rescue squad. As a volunteer, I will always advocate for the volunteers, even though we have a career service now, and that's just that's what it's going to. And I believe me, I understand that. But as long as we have people here willing to volunteer, I will advocate for them. And I think the city, I think you guys realize that volunteers are always needed and will always be needed. No matter the service that you provide for them, the volunteers will always have a place. And I'll make sure of that as long as I'm able to. But as far as this goes, thank you. Again, it's never been all about me. Just a month before I did, we had somebody retire at 20 years of service, and 20 years is unthinkable. Back when I was running lots and lots of calls before we had any extra help, there was times I ran 400 and 500 calls in a year's time, and we had other people that did the same thing. We're all a special breed. Anybody that can get up in the middle of the night, and I saw a little meme on Facebook the other day that showed somebody that can get up in the middle of the night with their eyes half closed and put shoes and socks on and run out the door and go and save somebody's life and then come home and go to work the next day. That's a special breed for anybody.
It is.
And all of you guys that do it, you know, you're special. So please continue to have faith in the volunteers. As much as they may struggle at times, their heart's in it just as much as mine is. That's why they do it.
Right.
And they're going to continue to move forward. and do the things that they need to do to protect our city and our surrounding area and the people that come into our city. That's what it's all about. But thank you for this. This is something I'll never forget. This is not what I ever signed up for. It's nice, and I greatly appreciate it. And just thank you.
Thank you for your service,
Barry.
Greg.
For your service.
Thank you. Thank all you volunteers. Appreciate you. Next item on the agenda tonight is a quarterly financial review from the Director of Finance, David Bryant, regarding first quarter expenditures and revenues. I'm not sure I like that podium where it's at. Did we used to have a podium over here and you did the presentation from there?
Yeah.
Yes.
We did?
Yes. Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay.
We hear you.
I wanted to make sure with the mask. Very good.
Can you just give
Sure.
Judy just a second? She went and took Greg's picture. She'll want to get her camera on you, I'm sure. Maybe. We'll give her 30 seconds. Did she go outside?
Yeah, she's out on
Go
the
ahead.
porch.
I thought she's just, go ahead. I thought she's just outside the door.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor,
Good evening.
members of council, Ms. Onitis, Ms. Scott. Thank you. It's a pleasure being here. And also, those of you from the community, thanks for being here this evening as well. We're going to talk about the FY 2021, quarter one, financial review. FY 2021 budget was built with potential COVID-19 impacts in respect to decreased revenues and concurrent expenditures, and also based on the need to preserve fund balance to the greatest extent possible. And as you know, when we built this budget for FY 21, the fund balance wasn't utilized. The impacts to revenues started to be realized in March of 2020, and we will see those up until that time in 2021 when we're making these comparisons to same period last year, year-to-date or previous year, and as we talk about previous quarters when we have these reports through the remainder of the year. Starting in the last quarter of FY 20, fiscally responsible expenditure control measures were implemented as well and budgeted accordingly in FY 21. We'll talk about revenues first. Specifically, we'll talk about general property revenues. On general property revenues, if you look at your real estate, public service, corp, those types of taxes are normally paid twice a year. Those are your December and your June payments that come into the city. Compared to last year, these are down related to real estate and late fees, yet overall as a group are above same period last year. That number right there, you can see they're above. However, you should note the increase in personal property taxes, which is a good thing, and an increase in machinery and tools, which there was nothing at all last year in that machinery and tools. There was an advance payment made there. So in reality, if you take that machinery and tools out, that number becomes a negative $24,000 for the first quarter of this fiscal year when you're looking at general property taxes. And you have a grouping here, and I have them starred there because they're all very similar in nature. This is an area where review may be possible, may need to be looked at, because all of them are associated with revenue collection opportunities, and they're below last year at this point. Other local taxes. Again, this is in our area, this is a local theme right here. These revenues, we see a lot of them monthly. Some of those come in a month later. The revenue is generated through a business or an entity, and then it's paid 1 month later. Please note, sales and use tax holding steady, just like it did in FY20. But you see actual decreases in the consumer utility taxes, business licenses, hotel and motel, and meals taxes. Lodging was very solid last year, and as industrial projects take place, this may bounce this year, some up and some down. However, the meals tax portion is following the same patterns, right there, your restaurant and meals taxes at the very bottom, that it followed in the initial stages of COVID. The only differential is during those early times, March through July, well, March through the end of July, those amounts were 20% or so below what was budgeted. However, right now what we're looking at is a 10+% change. However, in all of these, which most all are generated locally, they're down $25,276 to this very same period last year. So in 2019, July, August, and September, the revenue was $414,809. But this year, the actual is $389,533 for that difference of $25,276. And there's no anomalies in that one. That's straight numbers. This fifth slide, again, actual numbers, looking at licenses and fees and revenue from use of money and property. Building permit revenues are down compared to the first quarter of last year, which was prior to COVID. The interest on payments is a 2-month against 3-month comparison. And that number right there, although in the negative, that number is okay. That good number is good. However, please note, concession commissions down $1,573 to last year. That is a direct impact of COVID-19. So between those two, licenses and fees down almost $6,000, and revenue from use of money and property $8,200, although that $7,000 of that will catch up. Slide number 6. These numbers, again, based on actual dollars for comparison for charges for services and other revenues of note. Along the same theme, recreation and pool fees combined are down $6,307 from the first quarter last year. Charges and fees as an overall group, however, are up, and that is based on an increase in soft billing dollars. Right there, the 20,000. So again, there's another scenario of if that wasn't higher, this number that's a positive would actually be a negative of about $12,000. You can also see the pattern down in motor vehicle carriers tax, telecommunication sales. That's the one we've been talking about for 3 years. That is now on state budget. Again, it's in the same pattern for this year, because at one time, that was almost somewhere in the neighborhoods of 20% higher. So that's where we are on those. This slide right here, number 7. Although these revenue decreases are not good news at all, city administration prepared for this in the budget that was presented to you this year. If you'll note that overall, the general property budget increased $132,964 right there. However, if you take the increase projection right there, the $350,000 for machinery and tools out of that, the actual budgeted amount right there is $217,036 less in the budget. Any question on that? Because it jumps around just a little bit. So real estate tax projections are $227,000 below last year's budget, and associated fees are budgeted at $31,000 less. That's this information right here. Thus, the reduced actual revenues that we talked about in the previous 5 slides, they're accounted for by your budget today. So, very responsible, fiscally responsible, tight revenue budgeting that you were presented this year has allowed us to not have great concern over what you see in those actual numbers. Now, there is a concern that the money is down that is coming in from the previous year. But as far as your budget, that budget is okay. We talked about budgeted changes. If you look at your local sales and use tax, consumer utility, and all of your business license taxes, and you go through restaurant and food taxes, those numbers in this budget were reduced $490,592. That's a considerable budget reduction as part of what you passed back in May, June, to take care of these shortfalls that we discussed earlier. Actual expenditures to budget. You have your money coming in and you have to spend it. Because of revenue budget impacts, expenditure budgets are very tight and can be impacted significantly with one single emergency event. Being 1/4 of the way through the year, 25% can be a quick gauge of how we're doing for the year. This is the amounts that have been used: 20.2, 25, 18.4, 17.4 so far this year, and we're in the good range. If you were looking at the other scorecard, those would all be green at the present time. These can fluctuate a bit because of timing, projects, and seasonal activities, but overall we're green to date in the functional areas. Actions to control COVID-19 impacts to the budget. Monthly, staff will review revenues and expenditures and develop projections as well. Quarterly, a presentation will be made to City Council, and starting in the second quarter, an activity report to include budget changes, year-to-date activity, percent of budget, and projected revenues and expenditures will be presented by functional area. And if revenues are trending negative to budgeted projections, expenditure budgets will again be adjusted as necessary, just as took place during FY20. Ms. Onotis, you have anything you would like to add? All right. Any questions?
Council? You all right?
Need to go back to a certain slide, or?
David and Chris, I just want to thank y'all for being aware of what was happening and making changes early on. We could be in a whole lot different position if y'all hadn't prepared the budget the way you had.
Yep.
I think we still need to stay on top of it. As COVID progresses, we will see some more dips in revenue, I'm sure, and we may see some additional costs COVID-related.
Yep.
So, thank you both for what you've done to this point.
Thank you, and see you in January.
Thank you, baby.
Report of the city manager.
I do want to say thank you for acknowledging the hard work that Mr. Bryant, myself, put into the budget this year. While I know it was less than ideal budget discussions that we all had during the work sessions and that there was absolutely no wiggle room, it, at least for now, seems to be paying off. While it's a very tight budget, we didn't pass the buck, and we're continuing to try to be as responsible as we can, and so far, our projections have held true. So for that, I will also thank Mr. Bryan tremendously for his effort, and those that we also work with as consultants, and just getting us on the right track so that we don't have impacts extensively to cost of service for our citizens. That being said, give you guys a quick update, trying to keep a consistent theme with everything that I like to cover. Economic development update. Mr. Crozier actually participated in this today. We held a kickoff meeting with Hunton Andrews Kurth and Timmons Group for engagement of consultative services for the Allegheny Highlands Economic Development Corporation. Actually, a press release went out around 6 o'clock regarding that. The Brownfield EPA program through the EDC, that is progressing as well. The city has several high-value, high-impact sites advancing in this program, with a focus on re-tiering 2 sites within the city, which are also part of the joint revenue sharing agreement. And when I say re-tiering, that's, when there's sites ranked 1, 2, 3, 4, and that kind of just looks at how ready they are to go for marketing and repurposing, or for an entity to move in and be ready to go. And we have 2 sites that are tier 2, and we're looking at trying to get them to a 3 or a 4, and we're working with the Brownfields program on that, and may also touch on some of that work with Timmons Group and Hunton Williams. Active city grants, the Historic Main Street Revitalization Planning Grant. The grant has been awarded to Head Down Strategies. We will be working with all stakeholders on furthering revitalization, including the foundation. We'll also focus on Old Town Covington and capacity building with that organization. That was one of the main focuses of this consultants group's presentation, and sort of how they really looked at harnessing potential of a Main Street organization, which was something that really appealed to myself and the members on the review panel. That presentation was shared with you all. The Joint Opportunity Zone grant that the city and county have going forward, there's no update to share at this time. We're actually awaiting the final report and a review meeting to be scheduled. This project's timeline was impacted due to COVID. Several of the consultants with the firm out of Indiana that were handling this for us, they had COVID within their office, so it understandably has delayed some of the deliverables. The Jackson Street grant, the budget's been amended, submitted, and our focus, as we've stated before, is highest priority issue reported by the citizens in the community in that area of drainage and overall infrastructure. Preliminary design is underway, and a draft grant application for construction funds is beginning as well. The rendering and cost estimates have been completed and are ready to be attached to a finalized application for an October 30th submission. So there's finally some good traction and headway on that. So we didn't leave it on the back burner for forever. Additionally, I will be meeting with city operations and CHA on that to finalize everything before we hit submit for DHCD. The ARC grant for Drone Zone. That has now officially been resubmitted to DHCD for review on October 2nd. And Mr. Tyree is now the POC for this grant, given the transition towards facility and construction management. It's kind of gone from the focus of getting the tenants in there to now, how do you manage the building and how do you improve the building? Hence the reason that it's lying with Mr. Tyree, who was great in working on helping to do some of the resubmission factors. We had to work with the budget on that project, as well as some of the, I think it was 37 essay questions with that grant, and just sort of fleshing out some of the things that had been previously submitted based on feedback we received from the Appalachian Regional Commission and DHCD. Discovery Center, we continue to process remittances received from the nonprofit. Active projects, Maple Avenue Phase 2, sidewalk portion of the first block is now complete. Demolition of the next area will continue throughout this week. Communication with businesses is actively continuing, and we're consistently working with VDOT on making sure we understand and incorporate all new and state federal guidelines relating to ADA compliance. As you all know, that's always a moving target, so at times it can create challenges with construction projects. So we're trying to make sure that we're actively working with VDOT on those things, as this is a federalized project, so it's very, very stringent, and for whatever reason, red tape seems to always change. I don't know why. Maple Avenue Phase 3, the survey work that VDOT requested has now been fully completed, and we've completed addressing any of the comments that we received from the 60% complete of the plan and specification submission. Allegheny Avenue, milling and paving, as I'm sure you know, Councilman Hunter, it's been done. I've heard from quite a few that it's a nice, smooth ride, and so we're grateful to that, for that, and to VDOT for the $427,000 that we got for that paving, as well as Allegheny Asphalt, Mr. Franson, for a great job done. Carpenter Road paving, we opened bids for that project today at 2 p.m. The actual emergency road work repairs are slated to be completed the end of this week for Ashland and Carpenter. So they will be done with the emergency road stabilization work, which they are actually a week and a half almost ahead of schedule, which that has been phenomenal to work with that company. City street paving and slurry, the bids for this project effort will be open Thursday the 15th at 2 p.m. So I guess I'll report on that next time. Any questions?
I've got a couple.
Okay.
Go back to Jackson Street Grant.
Yes, sir.
That thing kind of bounced around and some of that predated you. What will that program over there, if realized, include?
I think the best way to equate it to is the county has a very similar grant moving forward with the state focusing on infrastructure, and it's in the Wrightsville community. They had significant drainage issues as well that also impacted property values, as well as just the community fiber as far as quality of life, high turnover of residents in the community. So we're looking at addressing some very profound drainage issues and doing it in an aesthetic way that blends in with the neighborhood character, and tying that into our grant, because when we went and we were talking to folks in the community and from the community meetings, the number one issue that we heard from folks was drainage. And then that also, the lack of adequate drainage has an adverse impact on our wastewater plant as well. And it does hurt when you constantly have rental turnover because of water infiltration, or you have homes that sit for sale, or then it erodes the actual value of properties. So that's what the focus will be.
So it's just going to be infrastructure? The
Infrastructure.
housing piece of it isn't there?
No.
Like it was?
No,
Okay.
we're gonna focus on quality of life measures for all, and hopefully we can get funds as well to look at sidewalk extensions and other things like that in the vicinity, to just kind of continue on some of the work that we did with VDOT with the Bluff project, as well as just addressing the main issue that folks have with their properties. Because, I can give you a great facade, but if you constantly have water infiltrating your home every time there's a big rain, well, what good does that really do?
Okay, my other question.
All right.
Phase 3 on Maple Avenue.
Yes,
When
sir.
y'all were looking down there, one of the big issues we have at the corner
Mm-hmm.
of Maple and Riverside, it'd be right there at the corners there at the library. On
Mm-hmm.
basically four corners, we've got a lot of drainage issues.
Mm-hmm.
Will the Phase 3 take care of that? Because some of the rumor going around with a couple of the business people down there was that it was not.
So we will be working to address drainage within the project scope. I think that where there might have been some miscommunication is initially we were actively working to try to address the lot itself that the library and the funeral home uses as well for overflow. Due to efforts to try to value engineer and focus on the drainage and other facets, we had to scale that portion back. So we'll truly be focusing on the streetscape itself and not so much the lot. Does that make sense?
So there will be drainage improvements in there as we do that project going from there to the river.
The drainage problems that he's talking about are actually on Riverside, maybe 50 feet from the intersection going toward the playground.
Okay, well, I think that that's something that we can probably look at. We have the list. We're prioritizing 2 major drainage projects this year in this year's budget. We can potentially look at weaving that in as part of Phase 3. As you know, we've done betterments on our own with each phase of Maple Avenue. Most recently with Phase 2, we did a new water line. So I think that that's something that if we know that it's needed and it's just outside of what, constitutes being truly within the project, we can look at how do we start planning for some funds for that, so that we have it and it's not an unplanned cost, because it would make sense that if you're going to put all of those streetscape improvements in and you have something really nice, shiny and pretty, you want to keep it nice, shiny and pretty and not have mud flow over it.
Didn't at one point we have a plan to address that? Wasn't something come up with? I know Alan went down there and looked.
Talked
and-
about it, but I never
No.
thought anything, but it's kind of like when you come to an intersection, a lot of times on a project, you'll jump into the intersection, maybe 20 foot on each side to kind of tie everything together.
Yeah.
And all this would be is maybe 50 feet instead of 20 feet, and bringing the water back to the corner to make it drain right, because there's a good bit of water stands there.
Yes.
So this is the time to address it.
I would agree. I will say that we'll have to more than likely use city dollars for that, because VDOT is not going to cover betterments that are not directly in the project's path. So happy to look at that, and we're happy to, as we're trying to put the design together outside of what is officially going to VDOT, to make sure that we have a plan and projected costs.
Well, that was one of those deals that if you don't address that, you might as well not even do
Yes.
the improvement, because it's going to screw it up within about 6 months with the water
Yeah.
that accumulates down there. So, even if we got to put some city dollars in, we need to figure out something. If we're going to do that down there, we need to make sure we do it right.
I would say that there's an opportunity, just like we're trying to be strategic in our limited sidewalk maintenance dollars, how we're trying to work to, in the spring, fully address Thacker Avenue with the wood plank sidewalk. We can potentially look at maybe that becomes more of a sidewalk roadway maintenance project, and we can potentially look at how we creatively use some funds within a functional area rather than even just making it a special project you can shift. That's an option, which is what we're trying to do with Thacker Avenue. It's a project, but we're using maintenance because it's also needed maintenance. Does that make sense?
It does.
Sorry. Anything else?
That's all I had.
Council? Thank you, Crystal.
You
Good report.
spoke about Carpenter Drive.
Yes, sir.
How about Mallow Road?
Yes.
In Edgemont?
So what we will do first is make sure we have everything finished on Ashland and Carpenter, meaning the guardrails installed and the road fully paved and opened back up for all through traffic. Because as soon as we move to Mallow, which is the next site, we'll have to dead end the road. So we're moving to Mallow in the next, if the work finishes on Friday on Ashland and Carpenter, and then they pave over the next few days after that, the following week.
Okay.
And the same will be true for Edgemont. When we move there, we'll have to dead end the road. So the main goal was we needed to fully button up and finish everything on the Ashland Carpenter area so that that main thoroughfare could support traffic while we have to close off some other segments of road.
What do you mean dead ended?
So there's no way to allow traffic to pass while they're doing work on Mallow. There will be a segment where there's just, you have to turn around. There are no homes that will be directly impacted. There's no pull-offs in front of those areas, but it will be that then, you've got to, if you're coming from the county side, you've got to go back around and turn around in the church lot, or if you're coming from the city side. We're going to do our best to have public notices out, and we'll still be using like the flashing signs like we've been doing. But the road itself with the curves and the width of it, you just can't even have.
So
one
what
lane.
about the Clemens house? It's right there at the,
No, it's on the far side, so they'll have to go through Mallow.
Right.
They'll just
They'll
have
be
to
able to
take
get
a
in and out.
longer
They'll be able to
route.
go in and out of Mallow, then Persinger.
Yeah.
Melvin, he'll have to come in and out on the Covington end.
okay, but Eddie will still be able to get in and out of his driveway,
Yeah,
okay?
they won't
Yes,
affect
it might just be a minor inconvenience, but the good thing about this work is it should only be a week and a half to maximum 2 weeks. So it's not going to be extensive. And then when they're not working, they're gonna do their best to leave it open. So, so that one lane or something of that nature. So it's very short-term compared to Carpenter.
And you're gonna close Edgemont when you do that work?
Have to. There's a rock wall.
We already have problems on Grass Street,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the only road that can go around that project.
We won't be allowing that as a detour for commercial or industrial vehicles. We're gonna have to work actively to publicize that that is just not a viable route. Folks are gonna unfortunately have to take the long way.
It's gonna have to be blocked too.
Yes, and blocked to only through traffic only. And that project, once it starts, that site is slated to be about a week. But that's what we planned is at the start of the residential to say closed to through traffic only. It's like this, I don't know the name of the side street, but there's the end of the rock wall, there's a very large house, and there's a side street there, and then there's a side street where it can put you out where you loop through the neighborhood.
Can't use that.
No,
That's grass strip.
Grass and
yeah,
church.
that's just for local through traffic of like, I live in that neighborhood.
For some unknown reason, tractor trailers get back in there every once in a while, some kind of detour. What, Chris, one day last week had one in there? Took down some power lines?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to get lost.
I think it was earlier in this, it must have been last week, that one was in there and tore down some lines and hit a pole and took a box off a pole and went through Miss Law's front yard, or Miss whatever.
Armitrout, I believe.
Armitrout's yard.
Well, I think it'll be pretty clear that it's local traffic only, because we'll have some nice barrels out there, and we'll have the standard, construction sign that says road closed to through traffic and those kinds of things. So then the truck's gonna have to run those over. I mean, can we guarantee that someone's not going to do that?
No,
No,
you
but, due diligence will be used.
Yeah, we don't want to make it appear that that is a detour.
No, it will be
Not-
known that that is not a detour. The detour will be, you need to use Ashland and Carpenter.
Right.
Or, unfortunately, we've also discussed that for a period of time, Rayon Bridge may take a beating with its load rating, and we may have to actually route commercial traffic on that as well. We've also discussed that with VDOT. We will finish the bridge inspection after all of that work is done. They've started bridge inspections, but they will wait and see, so then we can fully see and appreciate the impact that that has. Because with the amount of major thoroughfares that we have a very small number to choose from. So I think it's a good testament to show that when one goes out of service, even for a short period of time, the impact and stress that that puts on something that already has some structural integrity issues. Not to say that we want trucks going on it, but there may be the scenario where we actually have to be more realistic with, the obstacles of navigating through the city.
And it's probably not the right time to talk about it, but we're going to have to limit trucks to one truck on the bridge at a time.
Yes.
You can't pass. 2 trucks on that bridge is not going to be good.
Yeah.
It's going to have to be 1 truck at a time on the bridge. I don't know how you do that.
Don't know.
But if you got one coming in and one going out and they're on the bridge at the same time, that's cool.
We can do a temporary signal,
I might have to.
and that might just be the easiest way so that it's consistent.
And I talked to the engineers about it and see what they think, but that's a concern. If you got 2 or 3 trucks on that bridge at the same time.
Big concern.
And just, I guess, last thing, since we're focused on infrastructure right now, as you all know, we did geophysical testing of the intersection right there at Durant, right in front of the Wendy's, where we've had some continued issues with just putting asphalt, but obviously when you build on a landfill, sometimes things in the landfill move. So we're awaiting that report now to also figure out a strategy for a permanent solution so we don't end up with another infrastructure failure, so we can at least start to try to plan for it in a, capital project type manner.
I do some big cost comparisons when I got into that, because you might be able to just pave it for 20 years, every year just mill it and pave it, and be cheaper than having the,
Potentially, but there's also the potential for a sinkhole, so it depends on the shifting and the rate of shift. So,
that does, but I don't know.
and, if it continues to shift, it can also impact the private development of the parking lot and all of those things that are in the adjacent area. So we'll see what the report says. I'm by no means a geologist. So,
You need to be a trash expert.
Talking trash again? We talking trash again?
Yeah,
Oh,
Oh, my.
oh, that permit waiver went in.
good.
Okay.
We good?
Permit waivers, talking about where we changed.
75 tons.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And
At
we've
the
got a
other
landfill meeting scheduled for the end of this month, beginning of November,
Okay.
with the localities.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have some unfinished old business. We have an ordinance 20-10 amending and
Reenacting.
can't see.
Reenacting.
Reenacting?
Yeah. Certain
That
section.
thing was running all together. Certain sections of Chapter 8, buildings of the Code of the City of Covington. Need a motion to...
Move to approve.
Second.
Ms. Scott, could we do a roll call on that, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Ensminger,
4.
Mr. Hunter,
4.
Mr. Tucker,
4.
Vice Mayor Crozier,
4.
Mayor Sabald.
4. The next ordinance is 20-11, amending and reenacting certain sections of Chapter 46 Utilities of the Code of the City of Covington.
Move for approval.
Second.
Could we do a roll call on that, please?
Mr. Ensminger,
4.
Mr. Hunter,
4.
Mr. Tucker,
4.
Vice Mayor Crozier,
4.
Mayor Sabald.
4. To consider adoption of ordinance 2012, amending and reenacting certain sections of Chapter 18 Environment of the Code of the City of Covington.
Move for approval.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Ensminger,
4.
Mr. Hunter,
4.
Mr. Tucker,
4.
Vice Mayor Crozier,
4.
Mayor Sabald.
4. We have a resolution regarding, and it's Resolution 20-34. It's regarding carryover funds from the wastewater budget for professional services as part of the Department of Environmental Quality Compliance for consent order. You had an attachment in your packet. That's what I was doing, reading through it again to make sure I knew what we were doing.
Yeah.
Move for approval.
Second.
Is there any questions or concerns about this before we vote? Ms. Scott, would you do a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Ensminger,
4.
Mr. Hunter,
4.
Mr. Tucker,
4.
Vice Mayor Crozier,
4.
Mayor Sabald.
4. That brings us to new business. Council, do any of you have any new business tonight?
I don't have anything.
Just want to remind council that we have 2 ribbon cuttings this week. We have one on Wednesday, tomorrow at 11:30 at the Jackson River Sports Complex. It'll be a ribbon cutting on the boat launch, the fishing deck, pier, whatever it is, and
Paper trail.
the paper trail. That's at 11:30 tomorrow. Then at 11:30 on Friday at the new park at the old Jeter Watson Center. That ribbon cutting will take place at 11:30 on Friday. If you can get to them, I appreciate you showing up. And just thanking everybody for all the good work they've done. Both projects are exceptional.
Yes.
We going into closed session?
Yes, sir. You ready for this? Mr. Mayor, I move that the council of the city of Covington convene in closed session pursuant to the Freedom of Information Act, Section 2.2-3711A8 of the Code of Virginia for consultation with legal counsel related to specific legal matters related to potential city liability due to lack of proper amount of city staff, and for a discussion regarding the acquisition of real property for a public purpose where discussion in public would adversely affect the bargaining position of the city pursuant to Section 2.2-3711A3